Welcome to the topic on oceans and seas. In this subtopic, you will learn about the difference between oceans and seas. You will also learn about water movements in oceans and seas and their significance. Distinction between oceans and seas. The terms ocean and seas are used interchangeably. However, the ocean is a large water body surrounding a land or continent. There are four major oceans, namely Pacific, Atlantic, Indian, and Arctic. On the other hand, the sea is an extensive water body surrounded by land. Seas may be found inland, such as Caspian, Aral, and the Dead Sea. Other seas connect to the oceans through straits, for instance, the Red Sea and Black Sea. Seas may also be found at the margin of oceans and are therefore called marginal seas. Examples of marginal seas include the Sea of Japan on the western side of the Pacific Ocean, Beaufort Sea on the margin of the Arctic Ocean, the Labrador, Caribbean, and Irish Sea, all on the margin of the Atlantic Ocean. We also have the Arabian Sea on the margin of Indian Ocean. Water movements in oceans and seas. Water in oceans and seas is in constant motion. The movement is either vertical or horizontal. The main cause of the movement is the wind. Other causes include the rotation of the earth, shape of the land, temperature of the water, density, and tides. Vertical movement of ocean and sea water. When the water in the ocean or sea rises from the bottom to replace the sinking water from the surface, this kind of movement is said to be vertical. The vertical movement is influenced by differences in water densities. Ocean and sea water from the tropics are warmer and therefore less dense. At the poles, the water is cold and of high density. Naturally, the light tropical waters tend to move polewards where the cold water, which is of high density, sinks. Vertical movement is caused by the convergence of two masses of surface water. In the northern hemisphere, the cold Arctic surface water meets with the warmer water from the equator. This causes the upwelling of cold water. In the southern hemisphere, colder water from the Antarctica converges with the warmer water from the host latitudes at about 50 degrees north and south of the equator. This too causes upwelling of the water. The vertical movement of water is significant in that mineral nutrients are brought to the surface. They provide rich food for aquatic animals. They form the world's major fishing grounds. Horizontal movement of oceans and seas. The movement of ocean and sea water laterally is also known as horizontal movement. The movements include ocean currents, tides, and waves. Ocean currents. Ocean currents are the horizontal, broad, continuous circulation of water. The currents are caused by several factors. One of the agents that cause ocean currents is the winds. As the winds blow over the surface of the water, there is friction. This leads to the formation of ripples, then gradually, currents are formed. The speed, strength, and the duration of the wind determines the character of the ocean currents. Winds such as the northeast and southeast trade that blow almost consistently from season to season cause the ocean currents to move as drift currents. For instance, the westerly winds cause the North Atlantic drift. Rotation of the Earth. The Earth rotates on its axis from west to east. The rotation affects the movement of the winds and ocean currents. In the northern hemisphere, the ocean currents are deflected to the right direction, while in the southern hemisphere, the currents are deflected to the left. The deflection is caused by the Coriolis effect. The effect is such that any freely moving body is deflected from its path to the left or right due to the rotation of the Earth. Shape of the land. Ocean currents are not only affected by deflection resulting from the rotation of the Earth, but also the shape of the land. The currents often flow according to the coastal outline. For instance, the South Equatorial Current splits into two in the Indian Ocean due to the presence of the island of Madagascar. At times, currents flow through narrow passages between land masses. The currents flow at high speed on leaving the constriction. Temperature and water density. Differences in temperature affect the density of water. Water in the tropics tends to warm and light compared to water from the poles that is cold and of high density. This causes a circulatory movement where the cold and denser water move equatorwards to replace the tropical waters. Characteristics and distribution of ocean currents. Ocean currents are said to be warm or cold relative to the temperature of the surrounding ocean. Cold ocean currents flow on the western part of the continents from the poles to the equator, while warm ocean currents flow from the equator to the poles on the eastern side of the continents. Tides. The periodic rise and fall in the level of sea or ocean is called tides. Tides are caused by the force exerted from the gravitational pull of the sun and moon on the Earth's surface. However, the moon is the primary cause of tides. They are also caused by the effect of the rotation of the Earth. The force exerted is directly proportional to the mass of the heavenly body. Tides occur within a period of 12 hours, 25 minutes twice daily. As the tides advance and retreat, the high mark or high tide or low mark or low tide is noticed.